Okay, you're good.
All right, good evening. I now call to order the 401st regular meeting of the City of College Place Planning Commission. Will the clerk please take roll?
Commissioner Olson. Oh, he said here, he's on mute. Commissioner Roth,
Here.
Commissioner Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Brennis Marura,
Here.
Commissioner Dawson,
Here.
and not with us at this time is Commissioner Ricewig. And we do have an excused absence for Commissioner Wagoner. And also present is John Rickard, Community Development Director, and myself, Carolyn Holm, Deputy City Clerk.
Do we have any public comment this evening? Have any comments been received by staff?
No.
Anyone live with us this evening?
Nope, not at this time.
Time to move to our agenda. And that consists of our minutes from last meeting and our agenda for this evening. Is there a motion?
Let me go ahead and share the screen. So.
All right. Good, so now we can see our consent agenda. Now, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? I think I saw so moved.
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear. Who was the first?
One of our commissioners is muted.
Was it Commissioner Olson that made the motion?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All right. Well, all in favor then, let's try raising our virtual hands.
Uh-oh.
We're just doing this.
Or your regular hand, fine as well. I'll count both.
Yes.
All right. And I'm looking, let's see, I'm not sure if I've seen enough of both types of hands.
So
one option is we could go through each commissioner and ask if they are in favor, if that's clearer.
Well, let's try visual show of hands, just visual show of hands once more. Good, I think I've seen it.
okay, so that's everyone.
Yeah,
It's like everybody.
not a very controversial item on our agenda. All right. Next, we'll move to our regular agenda, which I believe was to be a comprehensive plan amendment and development code update. And John, you're with us. Is Mr. Dorn with us this evening?
Initially, I was planning on Mr. Dorn, Greg Dorn attending this meeting, but he double booked it. He may pop in, just depends on how efficient I am at this. So I guess I'll just take this moment to welcome Commissioner Ben Dawson to the group. Ben's a local developer, I guess I would say, and builder in the valley, and longtime resident of the area. And also would mention that Leroy Wagner, who was used to be the county surveyor and was also a planning commissioner for a number of years, but stepped away, has also joined the commission again. So welcome to those two new additions. We're grateful that they stepped up to fill the void. Yeah.
I was just going to say thank you for that. I look forward to meeting you all. I hope we get out of the Zoom meetings and in more of an in-person soon.
Indeed.
Amen. So basically tonight, I just wanted to refresh your memories about where we've been and possibly, depending on how far along we can get tonight, where we might be going in the year to come in terms of comprehensive plan amendments. So to refresh your memory, we adopted our comprehensive plan that we back in 2018, October 9th, 2018. And then in 2019, we worked through the development code update process and implemented that in early 2020. And then, so we really haven't touched our comprehensive plan for 2 years, which is fine. But we don't want to be in the habit of putting that on the shelf and just kind of forgetting about it until the state says, oh, it's time to update your comp plan again. We like to think of it more of it as a living document, and it can be tweaked from time to time as need be. We are continuing to hear more and more about affordable housing on a daily basis, it seems like. So, you know, we're thinking that that might be an area that we need to focus on and crack the book, so to speak, and see if there's some tweaks that we can make. So, you know, I attached, were all of you, Ben in particular, were you able to access board docs and see the documents that were uploaded for tonight's meeting?
I didn't have an opportunity to do that, John. I did get an email. I was kind of sifting through it, ran out of time. So
okay, that's fine. It's a lot of information, and you're probably not the only one. We didn't get this particular agenda out very early anyhow, so I'll take the blame for that. So don't feel bad.
yeah.
And we're not going to take any action anyhow. So, but within that agenda item that we're looking at right now, I attached a number of chapters from the comprehensive plan, specifically dealing with our goals. Goals are kind of higher level ideas that we, you know, are trying to attain, and then we implement those through the policies and our, whether it be our zoning code or development regulations. So, so please take some time to read through those sections. They're not terribly long chapters. And then Greg also, Doran, who's our consultant that we'll be working with, also in more of a text format, Word document type format, kind of highlighted some of the areas that he and I think we might be looking into. They're the areas that he thinks we might tackle this year. He's highlighted in yellow. But we're really focusing on, I think, affordable housing strategies. Last month, you know, I went over the housing needs assessment that the Regional Housing Action Plan group came up with. I also attached that just recently in the last hour as another attachment to this agenda item number 3, just so that you guys had it easy at your fingertips. So that's there. So we'll be, as that regional housing action plan moves forward through the region, with Walla Walla, Dayton, Waitsburg, and College Place in particular, that the consulting firm will actually be coming to each of the planning commissions to present the action plan that they come up with, and be asking planning commission to make a recommendation to consider that the action plan. And so we'll likely see that in, I think, in April or May. That'll be coming to us. Some other things that we kind of touched on last year, at the tail end of the year, there was some discussion about doing a more in-depth look at, I'm going to go ahead and, can I share the screen? Yes, I can. So I want to take a look at our zoning map. Here's our land use. Can you all see that screen?
No.
No? Did I not share it? What did I do wrong, Carolyn? Share, there we go. I didn't follow through on it. So last year at the tail end, we talked a little bit about the idea of maybe doing a closer study, look at our commercial zone, and possibly coming up with another commercial zoning classification that would allow us to maybe focus on a few different areas that might be more suitable for a commercial zoning that allows for multifamily zoning within it. So all of those red areas are our general commercial zone. And I've had requests over the years for being allowed to put multifamily in those commercial zones. But we've been reluctant to do that because we work really hard, whether it's the infrastructure that the city's put in place, or just the process of getting the zone established. There have been a lot of public resources that have been put in motion to get those zoning districts established, and we'd like to see revenue come back into the city through sales tax. But as you're all aware, a number of those properties they haven't developed. Commercial Drive has a number of properties on it that are kind of just sitting there undeveloped. And maybe there's some other areas in the city that we might want to establish a different zoning district. So that's a topic that we'll likely be looking into in the coming year. And then just continuing to touch on the affordable housing, the state, the legislature has been, throwing around bills that is encouraging more density in the single family residential zones. So we'll probably be looking into what Walla Walla has done in their single family residential zones. I believe they're allowing up to 4 dwelling units per lot in their single family zone. So they've had that in play for a couple of years. I'd like to take a closer look at some of their development projects that have occurred and see if that might be suitable for College Place to help out with the affordable housing issue. And then as you'll recall, the Martin Airfield property off to the west end, when we adopted our comprehensive plan, we had every intention of that coming out of our urban growth area. And so as you can see, we didn't assign it a zoning. We didn't assign it a land use. We were planning on keeping a small portion of that land up on the bluff. And we assigned it a land use of urban residential, single family residential, but we didn't do anything for the other 216 acres. So the county, as you recall, told us that we had to keep that in our urban growth area. So now we need to figure out what we're going to do with it. What happens if that is, suddenly the property owner wants to annex into the city? Are we going to, is it, in our past comprehensive plan, we had it as light industrial. Well, light industrial is a pretty broad stroke, and there are a lot of light industrial activities that are not compatible with airports. So what is appropriate? What is the land use? What's it need to be? What would the zoning be? That's a big factor. And then if the creek kind of runs through this area right here, and this is a much lower, it's kind of on the same elevation as a lot of the 4th Street and the Homestead development is in. And what happens to that property south of the creek? Does it, it doesn't have suitable access for a light industrial or commercial activity because you have to go through a neighborhood. So would it make more sense if it can be compatible with the airport to have more of this area being residential? And if so, how are utilities going to be extended in that area? Because we have a lift station at the end of 4th Street right here, but it can only serve a small portion of that property, and everything else, won't gravity feed to that lift station. And then we need to work with the property owner on that. Michael Corliss is the property owner for most of that. There are, I think, 3 other individual properties in there where there's residences on the properties. But we need to work with all those property owners and come up with a land use that's suitable. And hopefully the big landowner, Michael Corliss, is is open to having discussions and wants to be at the table. And then another, we need to take a look at the reviewing and updating the countywide planning policies. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that document. I think I've mentioned it in the past. It's a document that dates back to 1993 when the county was first entering into growth management and comprehensive planning. And the purpose of that document is kind of it's like you have the GMA, that real high level, legislation from the state. And then a lot of counties came up with these countywide planning policies that they worked with the local jurisdictions to come up with methodologies to determine where the future population growth was going to go. What percentage of that growth, that projected growth, was going to go to which communities, and how we go about our buildable lands analysis to determine how much land we actually need in our urban growth areas. How much land do we have within the existing city limits? And those are all, there's formulas that you can, run the math in any which way, but we want to make sure that within each community, we're all doing it the same way. And the county kind of is supposed to oversee that. Well, that hasn't been updated since there was a small minor update done in, I think, 2005, but beyond that, it's a super outdated document, and it's causing Walla Walla and College Place huge growth problems, and I think it's a contributing factor to our affordable housing issue, because there just isn't any land out there for the most part for the city to grow into. And so, I've been reaching out to the county planner, Lauren Prentice, a number of times. The city of Walla Walla has been doing the same thing, and we're trying to, way back when we were doing our budgeting, I was saying, hey, do we need to set aside some money so we can all hire a consultant to help us work through this process? And didn't hear mum from them. So it's kind of frustrating. So one thought is that maybe as we move forward into 2021, we just, we come up with some policies and put them down in writing and get it in the face of the county commissioners that, like, look, these are our policies. You need to address them. You need to update your countywide planning policies to incorporate these things into it. because we're running out of time. We really need to have all of this, the countywide planning policies updated. I would say by 2024 at the latest. Ideally, it would be done in 2023 because our next major update is in 2026. But we have a lot of work to do before we actually get to the point to where we're holding hearings, or even looking at where we need to grow. We've got to do a bunch of studies. We got to lay the groundwork. Yeah, that's another area. And then, what can we do along College Avenue to encourage a more vibrant mix of uses? Let's take a closer look at that mixed use zone and see if there's anything we can do to tweak it and encourage small businesses to locate on College Avenue. So those are kind of just some of the highlights that I have hit on. I want to open it up to the commissioners, and if there was anything that I said that you want to ask more about, feel free to let's have a discussion.
All right, questions or comments for Mr. Rickard? John, would you like to prompt us with a leading question to help get discussion rolling?
Well, does everybody kind of remember where we're at with our previous urban growth expansion proposal to the county? And was there any questions on that?
And I'm sorry, because I don't know how to raise my hand here on this application, but I'm kind of speaking up if I can have a turn.
Please.
So, I was very frustrated, I guess, in our dealing with the county on the urban growth issues. And it kind of seems that the county is not working very well with the cities in the planning issues. And I'm just kind of wondering whether part of what we need to do is some sort of action plans that we might even invite some interested parties like development organizations, or maybe even realtors, or other groups that maybe can have some input on specific items, and then we request to go to the county commission or some of these groups, basically, that we could kind of encourage or to go and talk to the commission and bring some issues up that maybe it'll prompt them to actually act and change some things.
Yeah, one group that I didn't mention is the community council. They did that affordable housing study a couple years ago, and they have a implementation task force that is working on. They take all of the findings from the study that they did, and now they're working with to try to implement it. And so, in fact, tonight we had a meeting. The ITF was asking the planners how they could bring a proposal to make amendments to our comprehensive plan. And so that's a group out there that's interested in moving things forward, trying to get the county to act on things. We did discuss the regional, the countywide planning policies and the idea of, bringing that forward, and how do we get the county to engage on that.
Good, thank you. Other comments or questions? I guess I'll speak up and say that I appreciate the initiatives that you've outlined, John. I think those are good. I appreciate you being proactive. It's been frustrating that not all partners are on board. The county's doesn't necessarily see the need as strongly as we do, but I appreciate your strategy and finding a way forward and make some progress. So thank you.
Are there any areas that, I mean, I touched on affordable housing. Is there any areas that the commission is interested in, tweaking in our comprehensive plan? Are there any areas that you see need addressing?
So one thing that I see, I know we have at the city, I think it's called the Economic Development Commission. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I don't know if there's anything that they or maybe even some other commissions might have some goals or items that maybe they want to share with us that could be a planning issue, or that changes that we could do on the planning kind of side that could help, like economic development, or maybe parks, or some of these other commissions.
Oh, that's a great point. Definitely we need to reach out to the Parks and Rec and to the Ed Tech, and possibly some other of our commissions to see if there's anything that they see needs tweaking.
Has City Council expressed any interest in any particular issues that might involve planning?
On this,
Not recently. I think they're all, eager to see the countywide planning policies updated and that moving forward, because, they were very disappointed in the results of our last application process, of course, and so much that they appealed it.
on this ADU, you said 4 ADUs per lot that
Well,
doing?
They're doing, I think they allow up to 4 dwelling units per lot. And there's some size, I think there's some size restrictions that are involved. And it doesn't have to be necessarily ADUs. It could be an apartment building, or a duplex with an ADU in the back. A lot of different configurations. I don't know that it's right for College Place, but I think it's worth visiting to see what type of projects Walla Walla has seen in the last couple of years that are higher density in the residential neighborhoods. I mean, we do have a mix of that in College Place, and we have a lot of very deep lots that are in the old core that are difficult to develop out. Some of them might be suitable to go through a subdivision process, but they're so narrow that it could be difficult. So having some different tools in the box to get more density in our core might be advantageous to helping the affordable housing issue.
But we're still giving guidelines of building with the same look as the main house. Is that right?
Well, we have some guidelines. We don't have design standards for residential. We had some height restrictions on like the accessory dwelling units, and we We restrict, windows looking into side yards. But that, and then we have some footprint rate restrictions. I think it was 10% of what the lot size is what our restrictions are.
John, I had a question for you. Since you guys have, I think that's been about 1 year ago now, or maybe 13 months since you implemented that ADU option. Do you have any examples of people doing that and how it's working? I've mentioned it to a handful of people who were pretty enamored with it, didn't realize the generosity that was given on some of the smaller setbacks and stuff, and frankly had no idea they could even do something like that, and expressed interest. But all those conversations just with individuals, more just kind of like a eye opener. I don't personally know of someone who's done it, and I was just curious if you have some examples of that's working around town.
Sure. We permitted, I think it was 3 of them last year in 2020. The only one that's coming to mind is off of 6th next to the water tower.
Oh, sure. On the side of the road there.
It's on, I think it was this lot right here. They have a couple outbuildings that they were able to move, and they ended up building a small structure right here on the lot. And I can't remember offhand where the other ones were. But as those finish up, I can, if the property owners are open to it, we can at least snap some shots of the outsides of them and just kind of show you how it's played out in the neighborhood. I think one of them was a basement conversion. Maybe 2 of them were basement conversions. You'd think with it only being 3 that I'd be able to point them up, all of them out, but no. I'm getting a lot of inquiries about cottage housing, but haven't received any applications on that. But some inquiries about how that would all play out in the community.
I had one other question, that if this isn't the time, no problem. But do you actually have the definition of what the affordable housing term means here? I hear it thrown around a lot in different settings, and if we're talking specifically about it, is it you have exactly what that is?
So that's a really good question, because that means that can mean a lot of things in different communities across the country. There's a whole lot of ways you can come to that. And in that region, that housing needs assessment, let's see if I can pull that up for you guys. It's in there, and I can't remember it. I can't remember the exact how they defined it. But it is within that document, and that's one of those definitions that that the county needs to incorporate into the countywide planning policies, because that's one of those things that we want to make sure that when I'm planning for affordable housing in Walla Walla and Dayton and Waitsburg are planning for affordable housing, we are all using the same terminology and methodology coming up with what that means. I'll dig that out and send it off to you guys.
Yeah, I think that has some real usefulness in developing a strategy for it, because like you said, you talk to some you talk to different people in different parts of the country, and that has a huge variation on what that means. I'm just kind of curious what, in understanding the definition of that, what that would look like. I think having yeah, basically having a visual or kind of a visual or a well-defined yeah, term would just be a lot easier for us to know what we're searching for, you know, as we have these different different resources to create it from scratch, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Anything else, guys and gals?
Well, you mentioned that you expected some recommendations in, was it April or May? What
Yes, from the Regional Housing Action Plan.
As I started to think about affordable housing, I recognize there's a lot of learning to be done, and so I'm glad to hear that others are working on it and can bring us some good ideas to consider.
Yeah, it's a complicated topic.
Here is, yeah. What do you consider to be next steps for some of the other initiatives that you've mentioned? What might we start thinking about in preparation for our next meeting?
Well, I read through the goals and policy sections of our comp plan, but you know, Greg and I will be formalizing some next steps, and we'll get those out to you guys. Really, if you haven't gone through the housing needs assessment document, you know, that's a really good document to take a look at and crack open and understand. And we'll just we'll wait to see what the Regional Housing Action Plan brings us. And yeah, it's about all I can ask you to do at this point.
All right. Well, it's a good homework assignment. So thank you
Right.
for encouraging us to read that and familiarize ourselves with it in preparation for reviewing some proposals. Good. Does anyone else have comments or questions? All right. Well, shall we move to closing items then? Is there any other business for the good of the order?
I don't think that we had anything else on the agenda.
We're at risk of ending early.
It's all right. That's all right. Yeah, I don't have any additional reports or anything to add for the group. So
Thank you for your, for taking the time to give us some orientation to what's ahead and give some items to review and prepare for next time. Appreciate it. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Is there anyone who'd like to move to adjourn, or would you like to continue?
I'll move to adjourn.
All right, is there a second?
looks
I'll
like
second.
Thank you. If there's no objection, then our meeting is adjourned at 7:39 p.m.
all right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.